Hey guys, welcome to another video on CodeThali YouTube channel. This is our 12th video guys. Here in this video we are going to touch about one of the really useful implementation in REST controller, that is find by ID concept guys. So usually what happens is like you have a table which is having data and you want to insert a data into the table. That means you want to insert a row into the table. Before inserting, you want to see whether that row is already available or not. If it is not available, only you want to insert. If it is already available, you want to send the message to the console like it is already been available. Okay, so let me show you the output first, then we'll see how we can insert, how we can implement this concept. Okay, so I have this table called student table with this data. Okay, 20 Karthik, Beti, 18, 17, like that. Okay, so what I'll do is I will execute this with the SID which is already been available in the table. Then when I execute this, I am getting this message as SID already available. How we are getting is based on this condition guys, find by ID, that we'll see in a minute. If this ID is unique, if it is ID is not available in this table, then it will insert the data into the table. Now you could see it is success, and when I execute this, 21 is already been available in this table. Okay, so how we can implement that, we'll see. As I said, we are using this student table, right? So we need to have the student entity here. So if you see my entities class, this all these concept guys I have already explained in my previous video, so I strongly suggest you guys to watch them. Okay, so I am using the student table in student entity table with column name SID and S name, where SID being my ID column. Okay, and once my entity is set up, now I am using student table repo guys as a repository. Here I am using JPA repository with the student entity table being my entity with a column which is an integer type. Okay, then my repository is set. Now I'll go to my controller here, and I'll try to implement that find by ID concept here. So let me take something like this which is already been available, and here find by a student entity response set. So student something like find by something like this value I'm taking. Instead of student entity response here, student I'll take something like student insert before insert after find, something like this method I'm taking. Okay, what it is doing is it is taking student as my request body here. So this is my student object guys, SID S name. So it is taking this as my request body, and it is consuming JSON data obviously and producing JSON data. Here if you see here, return type is response entity of student response bin. So in student response bin we have the error message in case if there is an error, and the status code as well as the student that we are sending as an input. Okay, now if you save this and go to the service method which is implementing this controller. Okay, so I'll go up here. Thing is executing in the background, that's why it's stuck a little bit. Now add unimplemented methods. So I have added this unimplemented method guys. Okay, this is set. Now if you go to the top here, you could see here we have this repository called student table repository that we have seen just now, right? This is a repository, right? So I have auto weird it, okay, with the str as an object. Let's keep that aside. Now, as I said, student is my input, right? And student response bin is my where the output will go. So what I'll do is I'll take student response bin as my object here. Something like SRB, like student response is equal to new student response. Now I have the my str, which is my repository, right? Now what I'll do is find by id I have, and if you see here parameter is integer, okay. So find by id, but in case my student is actually having, I'm sending entire json, right? So if you see I'm sending entire json as an input, but if you get inside this, I'm having sid as input column, okay, sid as integer column, right? So find by id where s dot get sid, okay. I am using this one here, and this condition will get into my if statement. This will get into my if statement, and in case of else something will get into it. And this one find by id get sid, okay. if it is uh, if it is actually empty, then I will try to insert the data into the condition, right? So if it is not, that means is empty here. If it is empty, then I will insert the data into the table. Insert data into table. If it is not empty, that means there is some data available in already available in the table, right? That means there is some row is already available with that id. In that case, what you need to do, you have the response bin, right? Student response bin. So what to do is student response bin dot here set error message as sid already available, and student response bin, so student response object here, I am sending set status as error message, set status as something like failure, and status code something else I can set, right? Set status code, these are all I have defined, guys, in order to make sure that I am sending the proper message, okay. If the data is already available, I am doing this, right? So what I need to do, return response entity, response entity dot okay body, okay body as what, response response student response, sorry. This is my body. If the data is available here, as I said, if it is empty, when my find by id is empty, that means there is no data for that record. Then what I do, for that I am going to save this, right? I am going to save, I'm going to save this object, okay. But if you see str, if you see str, I am having student entity table, not the student object here. So what I'll do is, in this case, I will create an object called student entity, student entity, entity as student entity. That object I'm going to pass it here. How? This is a student entity I am passing. But you need to set this right properly. So student entity dot set SID as s dot get SID. Then student entity dot set s name, student name as s dot get student name. Okay, once this is done, now I am going to pass this. What happened? This should work properly only. Not sure. Save. It is now did, but I have not returned that type here. So what I need to do is now return response entity, dot, sorry, here, okay. Before response entity, this is my save thing, right? Now in order to build my response object, I have the student response, right? So student response dot set status as something like success. I hope you guys are following this, guys. This is really important. Response data set status as 200, that means it is successful. This is the important one here. Student response, okay, this is set status code, I guess. Set status code as 200. Here student response dot set to student, this is important, set to student as the student one. That object here, once my student response is built successfully, that one I am going to use in my response entity. How? Response entity dot okay dot build as student response. Okay, student response one. Now if I save this, there is some, okay, this return is there, right? Because of this I am getting some issue. Yeah, so what I did, I have used my find by id. In case of empty, I am inserting that data into the table with the help of my controller save method. In case of non-empty, I am simply sending a failure message. And the deciding factor for everything here is our find by id. This is a small example on find by id concept, guys. Now you could see I have started executing my spring boot project here. Now go to the controller. Where is my controller? Student controller, okay. And student find by is my value, right? So I am executing that thing here, and I am passing 21, which is already been available. Now you could see 21, and I am getting SID is already been available message. Now let me pass something like 22, which is not been available in the table. Now you could see success message 22 being returned here. Now if I execute the select query on the table, I need to get that record, right? We got the 22 record, right? So this is a small example on find by id, guys. Only used when the mostly is used is to check whether the record is available or not. I hope this video is informative for you guys. If you found it useful, what you need to do, you need to subscribe to my channel. There were 0 subscribers as of now. I'm hoping one of the subscriber will come because of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you. It's me Karthik. Until next time.